Happiness through curiosity on the Ranveer Show. Myanmar, is that something you'd want to talk about?
Myanmar is a conflict no one talks about. And it's a very important conflict, and it's something that affects India directly, and it affects India very badly. So, yeah, let's talk on Myanmar. Myanmar is Burma. It used to be a part of the British Raj. It's a nation that's culturally very close to India. They are Buddhists, they were Hindus in the past. These nations, Myanmar, Thailand, Indonesia, all were part of extended India, which some would call Akhand Bharat. Very, very Indian in culture, but of course, ethnically, very, very diverse. So, Myanmar in 1935, they voted, the government of Myanmar, which was a puppet government of the British, in 1935, they voted to remain a part of British India. But the British forcibly cut Myanmar off from India. So Burma wanted to be part of India. They wanted to continue being a part of India. But the British cut that off. Now, today, you have a military government in Burma. It's been in power essentially since the 1940s when the British left the place. And it is not in control of the whole country. Myanmar, in the northern parts of Myanmar, you have all these different ethnic groups that are non-Burmese ethnic groups. They don't speak the Burmese language. They don't practice Burmese culture. Some of these ethnic groups, like the Kukis, who are called the Kukis, they are converted to Christianity in recent times, past 100 or so years. They speak a language that is native to Yunnan in China. And they are essentially outsiders who now control Burmese territory, and they're fighting the Burmese government. So there is a civil war kind of situation happening there. And that is spilling over into India. So the state that everyone talks about because of what happened in the past year is Manipur. Manipur, the situation, it's a geopolitical situation which people seem to think is a law and order issue. In the 1980s and 90s, the Americans used to say Jammu and Kashmir is an Indian law and order issue. You people are not able to maintain law and order. And that's why you have this thing happening. When they were funneling Pakistani terrorists and arms and ammunition and weapons and money into Jammu and Kashmir to undermine the Indian government's control over its own territory. The Americans were doing that. Right now, it looks like Manipur is a law and order issue. It's again a geopolitical issue. And it's these terrorists, these outsiders, these infiltrators who are being funneled into India, into Manipur, from across the border in Burma, where the Burmese government has lost control. And you have the presence of various Western missionaries and various other things, and Chinese arms and ammunition and weapons coming in. So there is a drug angle, there is a poppy angle. The entire funding comes from selling drugs. Much of that was happening in Manipur as well until the government cracked down on it. Some of it may still be happening. And all the weapons that are coming in from China, arms, ammunition, because China, the Chinese border, the Yunnan border is about 100 kilometers, 200 kilometers away. It's not really far. It's very wooded and hilly region. And all these weird, disparate ethnic groups live here. And Manipur lost control of its destiny in the early 19th century. When the Burmese conquered Manipur, the actual Burmese kingdom, the Burmese Empire conquered Manipur. It was 7 years of devastation of Manipur, in which Manipur had to face lots of atrocities. When the Burmese left, the king of Manipur had to bring in the British as the guarantor of security. And once the British enter the region, the scene, they mess everything up. So Manipur lost sovereignty. The British they forced the king of Manipur to have a British political officer in the court. And then they were forced to start bringing in these outsiders into Manipuri territory and settling there, who are the Kukis. But around 1900, less than 1% of the population of Manipur was Kukis. Today, Manipur is overwhelmed with Kukis. And even after 1947, after 1949, when Manipur becomes part of India, the Indian government continued the same British policies of bringing in foreigners, these Burmese origin, the people who are on the other side of the border into Manipur as refugees. I don't know for what reason. And what has now happened is that the southern portion of Manipur, more than 50% of the territory, is now under the control of these outsiders, these infiltrators. Okay? And over the past 10 years, thousands of new villages are visible in satellite images. And maybe 1 million or so people must have infiltrated into India from across the border. Now, is it the government's fault? No, it is the fault of previous governments who did not ever fence the border. And there was this open border regime that India and Burma had signed, that the border will remain open and people will have the right to move across the border for a certain amount of time and a certain amount of kilometers. So because of that, these people have been able to infiltrate close to 1 million people into India. And the native Manipuris, the people who speak the Manipuri language, which has been around for 2,000 years and who have always ruled Manipur, they now occupy less than 7% of their ancestral territories. So that's the deal. That's what's happened in Manipur. The so-called Kukis, they have ethnically cleansed out the Nagas, the Meiteis of Manipur, and they are still pouring in across the border from Burma. The government of Burma has lost control. There is a civil war kind of situation, and there is the involvement of Western missionaries very strongly in the anti-Burmese government efforts. And there is the involvement of China as well. China also would like to take advantage of the situation. And who is suffering? The people of Burma are suffering, and the people of India, especially Manipur, are suffering. So what is the solution to this? The solution is very simple. All the outsiders, all the foreigners have to be sent back, repatriated, either to Burma or to Yunnan or wherever else, not in India. And the native Indians have to be given their lands back. But that is easier said than done. Because what about the records, the census records? Everybody has Aadhaar cards. Once you have an Aadhaar card, you have an election card. And these so-called Kuki people, they are classified as scheduled tribes. So they get preferential treatment. They become IAS officers, IFS officers. Not IFS, even IFS, I'm sure. So they get, and the native Meitei people of Manipur, they are general category. So what do they get? They get nothing. They don't get any good jobs or anything. These people get free, all kinds of benefits, reservation benefits, and they also get high-ranking positions in the government of India. So that is the situation right now, and it is all happening because of the instability in Burma across the border. Once again, there's the golden triangle angle, which is the drugs angle. Burma, Thailand, and Cambodia. These regions have historically been the golden triangle where all these narcotics come from, because poppy, opium, and various other plants are grown there, which are then processed and refined through chemical processes into heroin, cocaine, and whatnot. Mainly heroin and heroin derivative substances. And that has devastated the northeast of India in the 1970s and 80s also. And we are seeing, for some time, Manipur was doing well. And then this whole problem erupted in May last year. So it is not a law and order issue. It's a geopolitical issue. It is a continuation of efforts from outside of India, from the west of India, far west, let's say, to keep on applying the pain and pressure on India so that India doesn't have the chance to have, unbroken growth. There'll always be pressure points applied on India. That's the deal right now.
Because where there's chaos, there'll be economic fueling.
Yeah.
That's effectively the geopolitical logic, that money will be fueled in that direction. And therefore it affects the money that would have been reinvested in a nation's growth.
Yes, you could have had a growth over here. You could have economies and businesses and commercial activities that could have erupted, that could have grown very smoothly in the far east of India, in Manipur and other places. But now you have this strife. And all that money has to be used in just maintaining some kind of law and order. And there's daily terrorist attacks on civilians and on government forces. Just a couple of days ago, some CRPF people were killed by the outsiders, by the foreigners, refugees, so-called, and so on. So this is a situation that's going on. Eventually, it will take maybe 20, 30 years to have some kind of solution to this problem. It is not something we will be able to solve next week or next month or next year. It's a demographic issue. About 1 million outsiders have come and settled down and squatted in Indian territory because of the actions of the previous governments of the past 50, 70 years who kept the border open. Now we are going to fence the border. It's going to take at least 10 years. It is extremely wooded and hilly, this area. And then you'll have to man the border just the way we man the India-Pakistan border. It's going to take a long time to do this. By that time, I don't know how many more foreigners will infiltrate into India. Big problem for India.
Another use case for drones.
Maybe. But when you have thick forest cover, even drones may not be that useful. But yeah, some use for sure. Yeah, big problem right now. And no immediate solution.
Yeah. Again, I think the core aspects that we wanted to convey to the audience have now been conveyed. It's a bit of a geopolitical update. This year seems like it's going to be much more than what we call a flashpoint. So this is the stuff that's going on before things escalate, according to me. I don't know if that's too cinematic a thing to say or not. But that's what I feel. Hey, if you enjoyed this clip from the Ranveer Show, we've uploaded a ton of other clips related to a ton of other topics. So explore the channel because there's something for everyone.